All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And before we get into the third part of the show, I just want to remind you guys for donations and tips and get your comments recognized, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. And then, as always, for bonus coverage materials that are not covered in this live broadcast, make sure to go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network. So, with this third part of the show, we're going to go through the National League side of things, obviously headlined by the fact that the Cubs ended up getting swept by the Braves. Matt Olson broke the franchise record when it comes to RBIs in a single season for a Braves player. So obviously him and Acuna are making history. And actually, quick thing on the Braves. So obviously being from New York, I listen to WFAN, and on one of the shows they were talking about some suspicions that they have with the Braves. Now, not saying that they think the Braves are doing anything, but they just were bringing up the questions of, why some of these players are doing really well. And earlier in the year they were talking about why the Rays were doing so good, why a lot of these no-name players were having really good seasons. So there was some suspicion there, and Rays fans weren't too happy about that. So now they're talking about the Braves, and they went through Matt Olson's past history with his stats, and why this year he's having just a really great season. And not to say that they are suspicious, but they're just posing the question well, why is all of a sudden he having this great year? And for me, when it comes to things like that, I feel like we now live in a day and age where if a player's doing very well, there's always oh, is he cheating? Is he taking something? It's not just, and believe me, I sometimes have those thoughts too. Aaron Judge hit 62 home runs last year, and again, I'm not saying that saying he's done anything. I'm just saying you kind of for some reason now I've been some people have been programmed to think oh, that's something suspicious is going on there. You just have that thought what if he's taking something, and also again with what the Astros have done too, they brought up oh, what if the Braves are doing some kind of sign stealing thing. It's it's just I feel now we just live in a day and age where you just think of that. And it stinks because it just ruins everything, because you can't just sit back and just enjoy, what a player's doing without being oh, he's got to be doing something, So I think it's kind of just how it is now. I mean, I'm not, again, this is not me saying that. This is just something that I saw that I wanted to bring up. But listen, the Braves are a really good team, and listen, or maybe it's just because Matt Olson had his breakout season. This was his breakout year. And the Braves have a very good lineup. Up and down the lineup. Their lineup is incredible. Acuna, Albies, Ozuna, Matt Olson, all these guys, Austin Riley, all these guys that are hitting, 20-plus home runs, 30-plus home. I mean, Acuna with his 70 stolen bases they are having a great season. They are a very good team. And could they be doing something? I don't know. But for right now, I don't think so. I don't. I just think they are a very good team, and they're having an historic season. And unless something comes out, that's what I believe. So, but yeah, that's just something I wanted to bring up. But let's get into the games now. That was a little rant there, but yeah. So the Cubs got swept, and this wasn't a game where they just kind of it was a meltdown at the end. They lost this game 5-3. They did go. They started off the game strong, went up 1-0 in the top of the first, off of a Ian Happ reaching on a fielder's choice. Mike Tauchman scored on that, and then Matt Olson hit his a two-run home run in the bottom of the first, his 54th on the season. So obviously mentioning Matt Olson before, so that put the Braves up 2-1. Michael Harris, he doubled to make it 3-1. Ronald Acuna singled to make it 4-1. Eddie Rosario reached on a fielding error. Austin Riley scored on that to make it 5-1. Then Seiya Suzuki doubled, put the Cubs back to 5-2. Then he singled again in the top of the 8th to make it 5-3, but it wasn't enough, and the Cubs end up losing. And because of that, they are now a half game back in the wild card race behind the Marlins. Now, the Marlins weren't able to tack on another half a game because their game got suspended in the top of the ninth inning. They went up 2-1. There was no scoring until, the bottom of the 8th. The Mets got a run in the bottom of the 8th. And it was off of a Rafael Ortega single. So that put the Mets up 1-0. And then Jazz Chisholm doubled to make it 1-1. And then Yuli Gurriel singled to make it 2-1. And then the game got suspended. And this is an important game. This is a very important game that needs to be finished. So I really don't know. I guess I don't. Well, right now I'm looking on MLB. It says that the Mets and the Phillies are supposed to play each other. I don't know specifically what is going to happen. I guess. So let's see if anything is. Because I was checking the Mets Twitter last night. So they just tweeted 15 minutes ago, due to weather, of course. The Phillies game has been postponed. So there's going to be a doubleheader tomorrow. But now, what I guess that means that the game is going to be made up on. Okay, so the game is going to be made up on Monday. Okay, all right. So there we go. I feel like they definitely have had to do something like that in the past. But that is just so annoying because, that game is very important, and that could very well be what decides the wild card for the National League. So we got to wait till Monday. The Marlins, they play against Pittsburgh this weekend. I think also it all depends because if the Marlins, if they sweep Pittsburgh and the Cubs lose 2 out of 3, then I don't think that game's not getting made up. Because that's another thing that I think has happened too, where there's a game that can be made up, but because there's no weight to it when it comes to the postseason, then they kind of just are we don't need to make this game up. So, but yeah, Skip Schumacher was very upset with the Mets grounds crew. The Mets grounds crew, they posed for a picture in front of the Marlins dugout, and they were laughing and stuff. So, the Marlins should be upset because these games are really important. They need to win these games. But I think, as I've said, the Marlins are going to have that third wild card spot, I think. And I think the Cubs are at this point are on the outside looking in. They had those first 2 games. The first game they definitely should have won, but they just could not hold on to that 6-0 lead. And then obviously Suzuki makes the play misplays the ball in the outfield. Then you have, the second game where, the Cubs are winning and they just couldn't hold that lead. Bullpen couldn't hold on to it. So, yeah, it's tough. And again, I thought the Cubs were a lock to make the playoffs. And then since that point, they went down, and now they're half game out. So, yeah, it's not looking good right now for the Cubs. And, now they're playing the Brewers. And we'll preview the series as well in the next segment. But, yeah, it's not looking good right now. So, yeah, they lost 5-3, of course. Brewers got a 3-0 win over the Cardinals. They improved to 90-69 on the season. Phillies dropped to 89-70. They lost to the Pirates 3-2. Diamondbacks, we'll highlight that. So they lost 3-1 to the White Sox yesterday. Andrew Vaughn hit a 2-run home run in the bottom of the second, his 21st on the season. Kento Marte sacrifice fly in the top of the third. Diamondbacks down 2-1. Then Yohan Moncada hit his 10th home run of the season to make it 3-1 White Sox, and that was the rest of the scoring there. And Diamondbacks dropped to 84-75. Still a half game up in the wild card. So actually, let's take a look at that quickly. So I just got to switch this really quickly here. So again, I don't know, there's got to be a way to to do this, but I don't really know without you guys seeing me switch everything. But yeah, so right here you see Diamondbacks 1.5 up on the Marlins, and then you got the Cubs who are a half game back. And you got the Reds who are 1.5 games back, and the Padres are still somehow mathematically alive for the wild card as well, but we know that's not going to happen. So, but yeah, I just wanted to show you guys there a visual of it. Obviously, of course, you could still see it on if you look it up on your phone and things like that. So, but just to get a graphic in for today's show, I did that. But yeah, I mean it's not looking good for the Cubs right now. Obviously, we're going to preview all the series for this upcoming weekend, and actually, so it's possible we will technically have but the other thing is this: it's like meaningless. It's in the top of the 9th inning. I don't know. I mean, they should have just called it, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what went into that decision. I guess because they're in the 9th inning, and the Mets should have a chance to come up and try to, win the game. But the Mets are out of it. So and the Marlins need this game, but I don't know. It's it is what it is. So yeah, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when it comes to the third segment of the show. Obviously, when we come back, we're gonna preview the upcoming games, of course. We'll go through all that, and yeah, then that's pretty much it. So we will we'll discuss all that as well, and yeah, so but again, it's really unpredictable what's going to happen this weekend. I mean, the Cubs, they could. I mean, listen, the Cubs could take the series from the Brewers, and then they, overtake the Marlins for that spot. I mean, who knows? And then of course, you got everything going on in the American League. The AL West is still not finalized yet, although you lean more towards Texas when it comes to that. So, yeah, no, there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on. So we will, again, we'll get into all of it when we get into the final segment of the show, and then that'll basically pretty much be it. So, and then we'll see if the Marlins and the Mets end up playing on Monday. But I think if what ends up happening is if they end up clinching that spot and the Cubs get eliminated, then it's not really going to matter. But yeah, we're just going to have to again, the weekend's going to be crazy. It's got a lot of stuff on the line this weekend. So, but yeah, we will so when we for the final part of the show, of course, we're going to preview the upcoming games for this weekend. And then that will pretty much be it for the live portion of the show. And then I will go and record the Patreon. So, yeah, that's going to be what's for the final segment of the show. So, yeah, make sure to tune in, to keep listening and hear my thoughts on that. Again, I just want to remind you guys to leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the video. Once I'm done here, I'll try to get to the comments as well, and then yeah, make sure to go over to Patreon and watch the exclusive content. Subscribe to that, and so you get the exclusive content when it comes to that as well. So with that, we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we are going to preview the games for this weekend. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.